Hello everyone, Crow Overwatch Sapling here with another Top 500 gameplay analysis, Buff Ramattra edition. We've previously made a video covering the potential playstyles of Ramattra and the opinions of Korean Top 500 players during the hero's release. There were quite a bit of audio issues, so I can't recommend you to check out the video now, but we've brought back Hyu2Hyu2. I still can't pronounce his name, but anyway, we've brought back Hyu, the #1 Roadhog player in Asia. We'll check out how the newly buffed Ramattra can be played in competitive and also share Hyu's new opinion on the hero as well. And before we start, thanks to Hyu for sharing his replay codes for this video. We're starting out at Lijiang Control Tower with the enemy team running a Winston, Mercy, and Ana. He places the shield in a perfect location to both block incoming damage and cut off the enemy supports from healing the Winston. Now that the bubble is out, he can close the gap and pressure the enemies in Nemesis form using the space he obtained through the initial Void Barrier placement. Once Nemesis form is gone, your health decreases drastically, so make sure and remember to get yourself cover using Void Barrier, corners, and walls to your advantage. This is going to be one example of how Ramattra can engage in first. There's a Nano Blade available for the team, so Hyu holds the front line, giving his team the space to get closer. He then places the barrier, times his engagement with Nano Blade, and sticks into the enemy backline. Thanks to the movement speed buff from Nemesis form, it makes it easy to match the tempo of allied Genjis in small maps like this one. The team has both Kitsune Rush and Ramattra's Annihilation, making it a very viable tactic at this time to hold the choke. Similar to Doomfist and Hog, first you need to give up some space to allow the enemies to engage. This allows the distance to be close as the enemies come in, and with good ability usage like the barrier splitting the enemies and a staggered ultimate, the teamfight is easy as the ADCs. And that secures a clean round 1 victory for Hyu's 200 IQ Ramattra. There's a terrible misplay coming from the enemy tank, splitting off in the opposite direction of their team. They bring out the Zarya, which will give Ramattra the space advantage because of his better capability as a frontline tank. But this one was just a hard throw from the enemy team. The second fight doesn't go as well, with an insane overclock coming out from the enemy Sojourn. It's a lost fight, so might as well stall and save that ult for the next fight. Hyu approaches from white while hugging the wall for cover. He blocks off the enemy damage coming into his team with barrier and pops the ult to punish the Zarya. Not a great res coming from the Mercy, especially in close quarters against the Ramattra's ult. Now that Ana Kiriko is becoming a popular support line, Hyu's playstyle is great to learn from, especially if you don't have a Lucio available. In Omnic form, you want to utilize the barrier, walls, and corners for cover in order to move into enclosed spaces where you have the most value. If you have ults from heroes like Baptiste, Kiriko, Sojourn, or Ramattra which pressure back the enemies, you can either aggressively utilize the front line or give up space for the enemies to engage first. Although this might seem insignificant, thanks to the 2-second cooldown reduction on Void Barrier, Ramattra can now utilize his shield more frequently than before, increasing his frontline viability. It could just be because the enemies are running Zarya Mercy, but Ramattra looks pretty viable even without Lucio. Now we'll be looking at Hyu's gameplay on Midtown Attack. Ramattra's ability to pressure down the front line is great and all, but the barrier's duration is so low that its effectiveness isn't the best. And in Nemesis form, you basically have no form of protection at all against CC. If the fight extends out like this, the situation is only going to be more advantageous to Zarya as she's able to build up charge. Open areas with surrounding high grounds isn't a great environment for Ramattra either. The Zarya just ignores the barrier and walks forward. Well, that's kinda awkward. Although he isn't being fully focused, Hyu makes sure to hug cover looking for a chance to engage. If there's anything you take away from our analysis videos, it's sticking to cover rather than eating damage for free, regardless of what the role or hero is. Midtown Point B is even worse for Ramattra with the long sightlines and surrounding high grounds. The sustained damage from Cassidy and Zarya is really annoying, and Biotic Grenade is impossible for him to deal without a Kiriko's cleanse. The enemy tank makes a switch to Roadhog, which is a strong counter pick against Ramattra. Although Nemesis form can pack a punch, when you have to pull out defensively, Ramattra becomes a very passive hero and becomes stuck in a positional deadlock and a sitting duck against engagements. With the enemy DPS playing smart on high ground like this, there just isn't much Ramattra can do. When you run into a Roadhog like this in point blank range, it's virtually impossible for anyone to react to his hooks, even with Void Barrier up due to its slow cast time. The Hanzo is looking for a very cheeky pick above, so Hyu wards him away with Ravenous Vortex, forcing the archer to reposition. But Hanzo brilliantly holds a crossfire on high ground where Ramattra literally can't do anything about, allowing the enemies to close out the fight. Even when the ally Mercy gets hooked, all Ramattra can do is punch around. Even if he were to react by cancelling Nemesis form, there just wouldn't be enough time to save the support. If you want to block CC as Ramattra, well, you better be a fortune teller and be able to see into the future. The team tries to engage, but the Kiriko gives away an easy hook while trying to position for her ultimate. Hyu looks for a chance to go in, but now with 2 players down, he has to run away. Seeing that Nano has expired, and spotting the mispositioned Hanzo with no leap, Hyu pops the ult for a punish, but the reactionary whole hog just, well, feels bad, man. It's last fight territory, so Hyu tries to build ult quickly while his team escorts the payload. He jumps to high ground cover first, then making sure to stay in his support sideline, Hyu punches around, barely managing to build the ult, but managing to exhaust 2 of the enemy ultimates. There's not enough time on the clock to fully clear out the high ground, but when he touches, the difference in ult economy and the matchup between team cops could not be any worse. A Hail Mary ult, but not gonna work to no one's surprise. The enemies seem to have made some swaps for some unknown reason. Winston, Junk, Genji. In this DPS lineup, Genji tends to ride momentum and Junkrat is off meta. So once you lose the momentum game, there's honestly no turning back on this one. The Winston leaps in, allowing Hyu to directly cut off the enemy backline, leading to a kill on the tank. It's honestly so sad to see Ramattra have to walk around like this just to go upstairs, but it's a great enclosed space for Ramattra to fight in. Well, if he has the time to get there, that is. Hyu finds a sleeping Snorlax blocking the road, so gotta move him out of the way. Not too sure about the Reinhardt swap coming out from the enemy team. I feel like picking Zarya or Hog would have been so much better for them. That's an insane reaction time, swapping to Nemesis form for the extra armor. Hyu backs up, going up the stairs, skips over the Rhine to focus the Ana. And man, you really gotta watch out for those loose trains in New York City. Where's Spider-Man when you need him? Just melt down the Rhine shield here, and meanwhile the enemies have stacked their ults, and contrastingly, no ults available for Hyu's team. The enemies initiate with Kitsune Rush and Nano Blade. While the Genji and Rhine are split off, Hyu heads into the backline. But this is gonna be a really rough fight because they've already gotten 2 blade kills. Hyu tries to focus down the remaining support, uses the Vortex to slow down the Ana, confirming the kill. With no supports available on either side, this is going to be a war of attrition, and a question of which team can regroup first. He decides to come out of cover to bait the enemy Rhine, and Hyu saw this coming from a mile away, but the cast time is just too slow. He barely lives with the Nemesis form armor, and time to yeet with the movement speed buff. Perfectly kills the Hanzo here, and melts a Rhine as soon as Kiriko TPs in. That buff on that shift might actually be kind of based. Ramattra is really good at utilizing and holding down positions. This is going to be an easy prediction for the #1 Roadhog, checks the flanking Genji on the right, and decides to focus down the Hanzo as the Hog walks past. Hanzo is getting double pocketed though, so no kill here. Meanwhile, the Roadhog gets picked off while the supports are preoccupied, and as soon as this happens, Hyu goes in for a hard engage with the Null. Great Suzu from the enemy Kiriko, and looks like our teammates were a little bit busy with the Genji in the backline, but still leads us to a full hold on point A. Finally, this is what Hyu had to say. Although his ability to pressure the front line has gotten really good, all the other aspects of his hero isn't up to par. The hitbox is so big that he's still easy to land CCs on. Hyu feels that it's impossible to win against CC-oriented heroes like Roadhog and Ana. He's played around 15 matches, queued against Masters and GM players, ending with a 40% win rate. Although Ramattra isn't the highest tier pick, he's definitely become more playable. If the upper tier tanks get micro nerfs in the mid-season patch, he might actually become a solid pick in the future. What do you guys think about the Ramattra buff? Let me know down in the comments below, and until next time, this was Crow Overwatch Sapling, signing off.